Guibh Galera Cordia August Thofoil Road. Welcome to be my guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lear Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. And my very lovely guest today is Kari Rosvall, all the way from Ballantyre in County Dublin. It's a great Irish name, Kari.
Yes, it's a good place to be.
Yes, indeed. Dublin is great, and they're very welcoming people up there.
Absolutely.
Great sense of humor.
I tell you a story here now. I am born in Norway. I have grown up in Sweden, but now I have come home because Ireland is home now.
Isn't
and
it
I'm
funny
very
how
happy
people,
here.
Isn't it funny how people feel like that? My dad lived in England all his life. He was born in England. And once he came home, and after about 5 years, he could never have gone back because the pace of life was too fast for him.
Yes.
In London.
Yeah.
He just adjusted to Ireland so much. But you have an extraordinary story, Kari, and one I've actually written about in my doctoral research and book, and it's the Lebensborn program, which Lebensborn meaning spring of life. But maybe you're going to read a piece from your book, Nowhere's Child.
Yeah, Nowhere's Child. And this book was made by me and Naomi Linehan because she did the nice English for me. Because if I have written something in English, you couldn't read that. So here, my friends, is the beginning. My name is Kari. I am an ordinary person, except for one thing. I was born at the age of 64. I was 5'4" tall and weighed 154 pounds. My hair was gray and my hands very old. Unlike other newborns, I did not cry. There was no one there to mother me, so I was quiet. But I cannot stay quiet. I don't know how much time I have left, how long or short the rest of my life will be. It is time to tell my story, and I will try to tell it the best I can.
That's an absolutely perfect introduction. It really is, Kari, and I'm not being in any way patronizing. It is a truly remarkable story, one that I have not actually interviewed anybody with your story before. I've interviewed many Holocaust survivors and children of Holocaust survivors. And the other day I interviewed the Lieutenant Colonel who entered Bergen-Belsen, the first British officer to enter the camp. I interviewed his son, but you're the first person who is a Lebensborn, meaning spring of life. And these were children who were part of, if you like, a project created by the Nazis to integrate or to create, if you like, the perfect Aryan race.
I will tell you the story behind this, because here is the man, Heinrich Himmler, and he was the man behind these Lebensborn. And I tell you now what he said on a meeting. Obviously, in such a mixture of people, there will always be some racial good types. Therefore, I think that is our duty to take their children with us, to remove them from their environment, if necessary, by robbing or stealing them. Either we win over any good blood that we can use for ourselves and give it a place in our people, or we will destroy them.
It's funny, Kari, from what I know of the Lebensborn program, the mindset of the Nazis was just so extraordinary that, you know, if a Jewish child, for instance, was blonde and blue-eyed and measured the measurements that they took of the child, if they actually looked or suited their view of Aryan perfection, they were kidnapped from their families and reared as Nazis or reared as German, and therefore purebred. Many of them finding out much later in life that they were actually born to Jewish parents or gypsy parents, but they just had the right appearance that would actually pass them, and the Nazis could overlook the fact that they were
or otherwise
gypsy.
Yeah, they'd use them for experiments.
Exactly. Yeah,
that was most of it, and also because they have killed so many people over the Holocaust, so the Nazis needed new people because they were nearly lack of them, and there they come up with this Aryan race. Because after the 64-year-old person, then I started to really research this to see why on earth could this happen and how could they do this to the small children. I was 10 days, then they kidnapped me from my mother, and she hadn't a clue what happened to me. I just disappeared. I come to orphanage outside Oslo, and there I was 1 month. And then come Himmler and look at children, and he say, oh, this is a good one, I take then and then. And then they took me and sent me to a home in Germany. It's called Hoherholst. And there I should be fed and very well looked after and so on. And what they didn't do was they didn't cuddle us. So I have no of these warmth a little child need to grow up properly. No. So that was the Aryan. We should be the mother and father of the new generation. But then the war ended. We were worth nothing, absolutely nothing. We from to be Aryan, we were no one, and no one wanted us.
But the Norwegian government, post World War II, when many people were coming back and finding out that they had been part of this breeding program, and that they were not part of their mothers were mostly Norwegian women, and the fathers were either foot soldiers, as you found out, your dad possibly, or SS members of the SS. And they were ostracized amongst their own communities. They were neither Swedish or Norwegian or Scandinavian in any way. They were pushed out. They weren't wanted in their village because of they having any liaison or considered collaborators with the Nazis by virtue of the fact that they gave birth to children with members of either the SS or the soldiers.
Even if they were raped in Norway, they were rejected because they were traitors. So that was the reason I didn't come to Norway. They took us back to Sweden. And that was actually illegal because between Norway and Sweden, they had a law that these things shouldn't happen. So what happened to us 31 children who come to Sweden was they took all our paper and hidden them. That was the reason we hadn't a clue until I was 64 what was really happening.
But going back to the orphanage, and I know that when you were, one thing that struck me when I was researching you was the fact that they said that you said that they used to just open the door and push a child through to their adopted parents, and you made for Simon.
Yeah,
your adoptive father.
Before that was that I was in an orphanage, and there come a couple from Stockholm, and they should adopt me, and they took me away. That was a military man, and he died. So the lady who had me there gave me back to the orphanage.
Oh,
So
God.
then I was 3 years old. Here, the story is a little bit complicated, but then I was 3 years old. I was in another orphanage, and they put me inside the door, closed the door, and I should go around to show, like they do with dogs, you know.
Yeah.
And what happened was, in the corner back there in the room, I saw the nicest man with the lovely eyes and
Lovely
smile.
Simon.
Yeah, and that was Simon. And I walk up to him, and I go up on his lap, put my arm around him, and he said, I don't go home without this little girl. She is mine.
Oh,
And think of that now, Mary, that they didn't know anything about me. They took me on as the little child I was without ask questions. And that's very brave, because they hadn't a clue
but
where I
it's
come
very
from.
right as well.
Nothing.
It's very right as well. No child, no child chooses how they come into the world.
No.
You know, we're all an accident of our birth.
Yeah. But I mean, if you adopt a little girl or a boy, you can trace a little bit what country they come from on anything. Here they didn't have anything. They didn't know what if I have some illness or something. So they were very brave, and I really, really appreciate them for that.
And how did you get on with them going forward? Did you have a positive
Yeah.
experience?
See, here we have two sides of a coin, you know. My father was blonde and very nice. My mother was dark haired and very dark and very not really friendly. But I had my father, and his mother took me under their wing. So I learned what love is. Lucky for me.
But that's why I'm looking at you, and you know, you talked earlier on about getting no compassion or no hugs or anything in the orphanage, and I'm thinking that you were an example of whether you know, compassion and honesty can be nature. It can be nature or nurture, because for somebody who didn't get compassion and love, you ooze compassion, Kari.
Yeah,
You
but
ooze.
I had to learn. I had to learn these things. So because I could protect myself, like that. But if someone did this, how on earth will I react to that? That was new. I have to learn all these things.
But see, you know, it seems to me that your grandparents, your adopted grandparents, were remarkably instrumental in you being the woman you are today.
Yeah, they saved me.
Simon.
Yeah, Simon, they saved me. So that's the reason I come forward, because you know that love is stronger than hate. So there we have it.
And you know, I mean, at the end of the day, your biological, as they use the term now, biological mother was less of your mother than your grandparents were, in a sense. They did the mothering. And
yeah, they did. Yeah. And also Simon, he was really, he could do so much. And we were out in the nature, and he taught me all about these simple things in life. And I'm very grateful for that. And see, my real mother, I met her then I was 21, 22, because of the Red Cross helped me to trace.
You were a nurse, an auxiliary nurse.
Yes.
And you contacted the Red Cross, and remarkably, they knew exactly who your mother was.
Yes, can you believe it?
And it's just...
But they hadn't been asked the question, and because of that, they hadn't contacted me. So I had to do the contacts, because I asked, because come up was, then I was a nurse auxiliary. The nurse come and said, "Oh, Kari, where are you born?" And I don't know. I don't know. Of course, you know where you're born. All people know that. And I said, not me. Okay, she said, you can work here for 3 months and see if we like you. And I was there for 10 years. So there we go. They had that story there clean. So I was curious. Who am I? So I started to write letters and phone for the authority in Sweden. And everybody closed the door in front of my face and said, "We haven't a clue, we don't know nothing. No, 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 no."
It was like as if there was a barrier put down.
Yes, they really put up.
In many respects, perhaps they were, do you think perhaps they were in some way trying to protect you as well from the knowledge that
No,
because it might have affected you?
Protect themselves.
Yeah.
Because that was illegal until it's come up. You see, they protect themselves. I was nothing. I didn't have a passport with it was said that I was a stranger.
It's funny, Anna Fried, the dark-haired singer in ABBA.
Yeah, but
she's the Lebensborn.
Yeah, but we have not the same. No, she wasn't. She was with her. She fled to Sweden with her
mother,
with her grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we have not the same story at all.
No.
So my story is totally different from hers.
But what happened once you found out that you were actually Lebensborn?
Yeah, can you believe it? Because then the only thing the Red Cross said, we know who your mother is, and we will see that you will meet her. And I was over 20. And I was, oh, geez, that's who. Wow. And they didn't say anything about her, absolutely nothing. I didn't know a word of her. So I was thinking, but I'm curious. This is
of course.
Yeah. Of course. So I think because they organized that I could go to Norway to meet her. So they paid
nerve-wracking for you.
They paid the ticket and everything, but they could have told me a little bit more because it was so scary. But
terrifying.
I took the train and I went to Oslo and I went to her address. And you can paint a picture of me standing in front of that big house with all the black windows. And I was standing, oh, will I go home or what happened? So, but I took a step forward and the door opened. And a woman, we were a mirror image of each other, opened the door and said, "Come in, Kari, I see that it's you." And that broke the ice a little bit because we were so similar.
But there was nothing there other than appearance.
Yeah.
There was no emotional connection.
No, there cannot be that. I'm a grown-up woman and I had my family and things. So, but it was nice to have met her because the war have destroyed her. And they did so many cruel things, so they even cut the nipples off her. They were so cruel, the Nazi. So can you believe it? She had a depression, of course. How can she survive all this? Because if the war hadn't been, she had been a very, very nice woman, but the war destroyed her.
And she had a child before.
Yeah, and
before you, who was older, a boy.
Yeah, a boy, a pair. And his father was killed during the war. So there she was. You can think so many loss. And then she had a girl, and the girl was taken from her. She was stolen.
The program on TV at the moment, and it's finding long lost family members.
No.
And some people, when they meet their mother for the first time after years, there's absolutely no connection.
No.
And then others feel as if, oh my God, I instantly felt a connection with her. I instantly, when mothers are forced to give up their children, and they're faced with their past, or remembering having all these memories, all those memories must have come back to her.
Absolutely. I was remember her about the war, and that was the reason that many women they wouldn't like to meet their children. So I was very lucky that she will meet me, because then I have a face and I know how she is and so on, and that's it. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
Because I understand I have my life and my adopted family, so that was okay.
You were happy.
Yeah.
You were happy. But it was interesting what I was reading in your piece, that every child born on Adolf Hitler's birthday became his godchildren, or he became the godfather. My God, was there any end to the man's narcissism?
No, it wasn't. He was obsessed. And he even had hens in his garden who should be very good and nearly Aryan, because if they were not good, he knocked them. So that should be really, everything should be clean. He was obsessed with this.
I know. I found out halfway through my own research that that my great grandmother's name was Jacob, which was and that we believe that she was Jewish, but she married out of her faith. She married a Protestant minister in Wales, and under the 1939 racial laws, the Nuremberg laws, I would have been defined as a Mischling second degree, and subject to the same restrictions and the same treatment as if I was, born to Jewish parents. The fact that you had any bit of Jewish blood in you at all, you were tainted.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever blood I had after this war, it was nothing. I was treated like if I was Yiddish as well, and worse, because the neighbors and all of these who lived in the area that I grew up never accepted me, because I was an alien. So I was lucky. For me, the children were very nice and we played a lot, but I wasn't allowed to go into the family's house because I was alien.
But when you were in your 20s and you were finally confronted, not just with the woman who was your biological woman, woman who had given you birth, you never met your father. You never knew.
No, we don't know who he is. We don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who he is.
No, and you probably would never know. But the thing is, once you were confronted with the knowledge that, well, one, you had found your mother, your birth mother, but then that you were part of what is now called the Lebensborn program. Had you any idea, as somebody who obviously probably wasn't researching that area of history at the time, that was probably an alien word to you, or did you have a concept of the Lebensborn program before you?
No. I was 64 years old, and I know that.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah, and also then they did a television program here about me. It's they have a lot of research, and they can do things. They couldn't find it, and we have Vivian Costello, who is a historian, tried to help me because she could write letters in German and so on. Nothing whatsoever come out of it. So that's a little bit of a sad side. I not have the whole story. I have the half story, but I have to be happy about that. Some of the children have nothing.
This is it. And the Norwegian government were forced to apologize. Because, safe to say, there were thousands and thousands, if not
Yeah.
more than tens of thousands of people who were affected by this.
Yeah, I tell you,
You know, it's not just the children that were affected. I suppose in some respects, the parents were, the women were affected, especially women who were raped or women who were tortured.
the women, they didn't do anything for the women. There was only the children here now.
Yeah.
So what happened was that then the war was over. The German put money to the Norwegians for every child that the child should have. But the Norwegian took the money themselves. And that was that was research that really come up, you know. So
Yeah.
I had money from them. Then I lived here. And what we did was we took out an Irish citizenship, Sven and I, my husband, and then I repaired the kitchen.
So every time you walk around the kitchen
Yeah.
and look at your Irish passport, it's a reminder of what Norwegians had to pay.
Yeah, they had to pay that bill for me. And the kitchen is German and it's perfect. So
you actually go for a German kitchen.
yes, can you believe it? I am see.
The irony of it. Every time you're chopping your food.
Yeah, you should think this. My history now is history. It's what I lived through. Is history. So whatever goes now, it go forward. I don't live for yesterday, not for tomorrow. I live here and now. And that's how it should be, because I cannot do anything about what happened before this. And I haven't a clue what happened in the future. So here I am, here and now, and chop my vegetables in my German kitchen.
And you just hammer away on the counter and getting your own back.
Yeah, this is okay. So I love my food and my kitchen and everything. So, and also that the first years of my life was a mess.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely imagine.
Yeah, but the last year now, what I have left seems to be very nice.
At what stage? Well, you know, your first husband was very ill.
Yeah.
And then you met Sven.
Yes. And 10 years after this other story. Yeah. So it was and I was, I should be sitting there in my lovely flat and I should grow old myself, and here we go. And then I met Sven and everything was upside down. I really met a lovely man.
Is Sven Norwegian or Swedish?
Oh no, he is a Swedish blonde.
He's a Swedish blonde. We have one of the guys working with us here in the station. He's Dirk de Klein, and he's from the Netherlands. But of course, he speaks Swedish, and and a friend of mine, her husband was from Finland, and his parents were from Sweden.
Yeah.
But he was from Finland, so he spoke Swedish and Finnish and Dutch and German and Russian, and I just envy people from the Nordic countries, because they seem to, like the Swiss, have a grasp of everyone's language.
Yeah. But the Swedish, we have to learn English when we were small in the school. But it's very good. I had a little bit of good knowledge of English when I come here to Ireland. And we come to Ireland because Sven found the dream job. And then we like it, so we stayed.
So what was Sven doing in Ireland?
He is a computer developer.
Computer developer.
So he was badly needed here. So, because they have special knowledge, some of them, and they will be headhunted, you know.
And what year did you come to Ireland?
1997.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you when you met, at what stage did you tell Sven your story? And were you worried about telling?
No, absolutely not, because I mean, I have not done anything wrong. So,
No.
yeah.
Of course you
So that
haven't.
was,
But you know, as a child who grew up always feeling as a nowhere child, that
yeah,
I don't belong to anybody, which you shouldn't have, because you know, I mean, as I say, nobody chooses the family they're
no,
brought
no,
up in. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family.
no.
And some of us are lucky that
I chose my father. Remember that? That was I who chose him.
you certainly did when you
Yeah.
chose Simon.
So
Uh,
who
you
can do that?
you chose him, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, um, Sven was the love of your life.
Yeah, and because we were connected immediately. He told his story. He have lost his father when he was 3 years old because of cancer, and so on. And then I told my story and everything. And he said to me, because you have had such a hard life, I will do the best I can for you so that it will be good. And he does.
I wish I met somebody like that.
Yeah, he's special. He's really special. So I'm so happy that I have him.
So, you did. At what stage did you decide to put it all down in writing, into a book?
Yeah, that was actually Naomi's doing, because she worked for Pat Kenny
Yeah,
show, and he asked, because her mother have heard a story about me in one of the talks I do, and
yeah,
then she went home to her daughter and say, I have a person you should meet. And then Naomi asked Pat Kenny, can I go and interview Kari for the radio program? And he said, yeah, you can do that, but I'm not sure we will take that on. Then he come back and show this. He said, yeah, if it's something we should do, is this. So of
yeah.
course I send it. And then people phoned in so much, so the telephone broke for them.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they said, order a book, order a book. So Naomi come back to me and said, will we do a book? And I took a deep breath and said, okay. So we were sitting here, Naomi and I. We were drinking tea, we laughed, and we cried together, because all these emotional, of course, when you do a job like that, come back. And it's also a healing process. But I couldn't have done it myself. I doubled so in age as her, but we were so close, you can't believe it.
And you were lucky that, I suppose you attribute, you know, you have a son, Roger, and
Yes, yes.
he's a great gift and a great joy to you.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. He worked for the Japanese embassy in Stockholm, Sweden.
Wow.
Speak Japanese, and I don't understand the word.
Of
So he speaks
Japanese.
whatever he like. But he is very nice, so he speaks Swedish to me, and he also likes Sven very much.
But yeah, well, that's very important, that your husband is accepted by your son.
Oh yes, he was. They had met before Sven met me. He was friend with Roger.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they was in the same book club.
Isn't that amazing? But you had no idea where Ireland was. I find that when
No,
I
I had to look.
that you had to look the map up to find where Ireland was. You would not know this country at all.
Yeah.
Are we not? We seem to think in Ireland that everybody in the world should know us, and then people say
Yeah.
island, and you look and you say no, Ireland, and they say, oh, you're English, and well, I'm English, but
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they seem to think that everyone in Ireland is England. and until they find out, look up a map and then find that we're just out here in the Atlantic Ocean, an island on it.
A little island with the sea around. But what happened, this has happened to Sweden as well. Not many people around the world know what that little country is. So that's go around, you know. We are familiar what's around us, but not really further out, really. So.
Yeah. So what is kind of your plans for the future? I know you really consider yourself an Irish woman now, Kari.
I'm way more Irish than the Irish themselves. And you can see behind me, I am a lot into craft, because the craft take a lot of, if you have anxiety or afraid or the COVID or everything. If you do craft, you are into that and you forget. And I have made 17 quilts.
Oh, Kari.
For the 6 children in Crumlin.
Wow, because I mean, I've always wanted to know how to. I was only talking yesterday to. I'm involved with Irish dancing.
Okay, yes.
I judge and teach it. But I had a guy on yesterday he's an incredible dancer, and he's also the lead dancer in Riverdance.
Okay, yeah.
We're talking about creativity and how no matter what, if you're a creative person, it'll always find a way of coming out. And when especially somebody like you who has such a diversely tragic and happy childhood, that have you ever found that you'd like to tell your story maybe in a quilt?
No, but I have told my son his story in a quilt. So he had that, and I said that, and I gave it over to him. That you maybe can think of your mother now, then you have this. And he said, oh yes, he said, it's you in every stitch, mommy.
Every stitch, because we are in a sense, we're all a tapestry. We all make up this tapestry that is humanity. And
now was it important to do this for the 6 children in Crumlin? And all these small little quilts that I have, the children who have cancer, and everything.
No, I understand that. I'm an artist myself. I trained in the art college here in Limerick, at the Limerick College of Art and Design. So I understand that need to create. And somebody like you, you're never lost when you can create something. You never have a quiet moment. Your brain is never silent.
No.
When you're a creative person. I mean, I would love to, I'm hoping to do a postdoctoral research. And one of the things I hope to do down the line is to put my research into a quilt. And it's funny, but it's a giant quilt I'd love to create, but I have to start learning how to create a small one first.
Oh yeah, you do a prototype, and then you are keep going as I do with. I think of the children, and I think of how they freezing and how it thinks is, and then I come up with a pattern, and I also do little figures on the quilts and so on.
And do you do it by hand, or do you do it?
I do by hand and machine quilt. It depends on which mode I'm in.
I have to learn how to use a machine. My godmother made her own wedding dress, and she finished it at 5 o'clock the morning she was getting married.
Yeah. I have mine. Then I married Sven. I had the dress 11 o'clock and the marriage was 2. Here we go.
Yeah. Breda was coming up. Was coming up on the bus, and my grandaunt said to her, "Isn't one of you getting married today at 12?" And she said, "Yes, it's me." And she had only finished her dress at 5 a.m. the morning of, and it was stunning, absolutely stunning dress. But how is COVID affecting you?
Yeah, that's because
The lockdown, I mean.
We locked down, and because I have asthma, I have we are this is Sven and me here. That's okay. And see, we can entertain each other. He can consult me with the quilts, and he is into model railway.
Oh my God, you're a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So he's doing the model railways and you're
And
making.
I come and help him, and we do small houses together and all these things. And he helped me with the quilts because he said, no, you cannot do this and that and so on. So we really are a match in heaven.
You certainly are. I mean, my mother used to say to me, the man the man that's for you isn't born yet, and his father is dead. She said, you'd need to sculpt him in front of you, she said, to be pleased. I'm looking for a man like that, like Sven, somebody that you can actually be happy being locked up with for all this length of time.
He took now the early retirement, and I'm so happy because he's younger than I am. So I'm so happy that we can have this time.
You're what they call a cougar.
What does that mean?
I'm not actually what it's a woman that marries a younger man, that finds herself a younger man. Woo.
But he is more older than I am because he's very good and so on. I'm more like woohoo.
Yeah, but you're living your childhood now.
Yeah.
And your creative work is just stunning.
Yeah. So
your crafts are just stunning.
I have a little bit of creation I have made.
So, but it must be affecting you, the lockdown, or isn't it at all?
Yeah, it's what I miss is the swimming pool. I miss my swimming pool in Nut Grove because I cannot go. That's what I missed. Otherwise, it's okay.
Looking back on your life, Kari, is there anything that you would have wished would have been different? Might sound like a strange question to ask. Are you happy with, had you not been a Lebensborn child, had you not been put into an orphanage, maybe you might never have met Simon, maybe you might never have met his parents, and then ultimately met Sven.
But you see, if you think of that, now, if I had been a normal person born in Norway with a family there is a good family. I maybe have had a good life there as well. It's a good family. I met my cousins and everything, and we are very in contact with each other now.
Oh, that's interesting. Your biological cousins.
Yes.
You've met,
and they really accept me, and I'm so happy about that.
That's obviously very important to everyone, that they're accepted.
I mean, how should that be if they were thinking as the other Norwegians? Then they treat us as trash. That could easily have happened because they have learned from childhood that the German offsprings you shouldn't deal with, but these are bigger than that.
I just find it incomprehensible that a nation of people that is so great in many respects, so technologically great, engineering wise, and I mean, we had a company here in Limerick called Krups, and my friend, when she was 17, bought my mother an electric carving knife, and we still have the electric carving knife. Krups is gone, but they did themselves out of business because everything they made lasted a lifetime. You never had to repair.
Yeah. Oh, see, this is the problem.
And as a dancer, I was in Germany. I danced in 11 cities in Eastern Germany, and then 11 cities in West Germany before the wall came down. And I was struck by the cleanliness, the organization, the tidiness, the beauty of the country, and the people.
Yeah.
And you know, and then later on, when I started doing research, I found it incomprehensible to believe that within that beautiful country, absolutely visually spectacular country, there could be such monstrous ideas and monstrous actions.
You know that they were not healthy. They were, you know that Hitler himself had syphilis.
That's right. Well,
Yes. And the syphilis goes to the head, and you are the best in the world. You know, that's it.
But you know, that with respect, is, you know, there, you know, people say, oh, these people were either mad or they were either bad. And there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but that, you know, not everybody who committed these atrocities were evil. Many of them were ordinary people, and most dangerous are the functionaries, ready and willing to do anything that they're asked without question. You know, you can kind of say, oh, you know, well, he was mad, or he had syphilis, or he had this, he had that. That's just an excuse. They were ordinary people who did monstrous acts in many cases. And that makes them worse.
Yeah, and
do what they're doing.
Yeah, and if the people who was good, as you say, then maybe if they didn't do their duty, they were killed. So they had to do what the power man said they had to do. Otherwise, they were killed, and there were men and women were killed because they tried to have their own say. And I tell you one story here now.
Yeah.
Was a little girl coming here, and she had to do a research for a project at school, and she was 15 years old.
Yeah.
She asked me, Kari, she said, are you hate the Germans? And I said, no, my love, I don't do that, because I have been to Germany now, then I'm older, and be treated very well. And even a lady in Berlin asked me to come and stay with her. I hadn't a clue who it was, and it was lovely. So the girl was very happy that I didn't have anything against the Germans. And I said, the people who I am against, they are dead. Now we live and see the people who are there now. It's good.
But Kari, with respect, the way I kind of, I suppose, look on it is, and I agree with you, you know, we're not our brother's keeper. And, you know, you can't blame a nation for what happened 75 years ago.
No.
Who are born now, and they are making huge strides in trying to understand what went on and trying to ensure it can't happen again. But going back to what I said there a minute ago, to say that, you know, when people say, oh, Hitler must have been insane, or Hitler must have been blah blah blah, exonerates in a sense, or dissolves what he did, and what many of them did. We're all just a hair's breadth away from doing exactly the same thing, given the right or the wrong set of circumstances. We could all be victims, or we could all be perpetrators, put in the wrong situation. Go mixing with the wrong people, believing in the wrong ideological views because of friends or because of peer pressure. And we need people like you, people like Dr. Inga Auerbacher, and people like John Wood, who I spoke to yesterday, to constantly reinforce within us the importance of the dangers of bystander, the dangers of sitting back and thinking, oh, we're comfortable here in Ireland, it's not going to happen us. But of course it can happen us.
And that's the reason I am going to continue this story. I go to schools and I talk about this, and we talk about this stupid bullying. That's my thing at schools. So, and also because we keep this alive, we maybe can save someone. And I said, if I can save one person, I have not lived for nothing. It's
But you know, the message, Kari, is much deeper. Even, you know, is much broader than the Holocaust or the Shoah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it comes into all aspects of our life. If people, you know, I have, I suppose my life is dedicated to remembering the victims of World War II. And that includes people like you, Kari, who are victims,
Yeah.
people, and you know, who didn't choose what way they were brought into this world, and were also victims in a sense of the Nazi regime. And
Absolutely.
and you know, you know, the books I looked at were comics and fairy tales and allegories and time travel novels, all written about children during World War II.
Oh, I see.
Now, these books can be used in schools to look at rival gangs, to look at the subject of bullying, to look at the subject of exclusion. The boy in the striped pajamas can be looked at. The barrier can be the barrier between the cool kid in school and the child that's coming in with no hardly with nothing in the line of fashion, and he's ostracized, or he's kept outside of the fold, and you have the cool gang and you have the not so cool boy in the class. So you know, you can talk about you can use these books to introduce very young children to the importance of welcoming and embracing people who look or they think are different.
Yeah.
And then gradually they can start to learn about the Holocaust through these books.
Yeah. And I can tell you also, because I have been bullied by the teacher at school when I was a child,
Yeah.
the children I talk to now, they know Kari have been in these situations. So they take it on much deeper
This is
because
it.
of that. And they really try to save me. They are so good. Yeah.
Well, Kari, you have been truly an inspiration. You're just, I never thought I was actually going to meet somebody who was. I mean, I have, as I say, I have researched Lebensborn. I was struck by the fact that so many children were just, it had nothing to do with ethnicity at the end of the day, whether a person was a gypsy or Jewish or any ethnicity that went against the Nazis' ideals of the perfect race. As long as you looked and you measured,
Yes.
physically measured perfectly in scale, they were willing to overlook how gracious were they, but they were willing to overlook the fact that you might have Jewish parents or gypsy parents, because they could steal you.
Yeah, yeah, they could, yeah.
And hand you to a German family or
and an orphanage, as I was in.
An orphanage.
Yeah.
And they even built hospitals, Lebensborn hospitals, where children were actually all born. Every child that was born in that hospital was a Lebensborn child.
Yeah, and they were christening on they took them, the small child, and the soldier hold them on a cushion, and then the soldier swore that this child will be a very good German citizen and follow the rules of Hitler. Yeah, this is worse than you can think.
Well, they were insane times, but they are they're never in the past. We're only, as I say, we're only a hair's breadth. The whole society is only a hair's breadth from people having to make similar choices. Tomorrow, it mightn't be the Jewish victim or the gypsy victim or the disabled or the gay person mightn't be the victim. It could be somebody else. So it behoves all of us to
Yeah.
not become bystanders, to
Yeah.
stand up when we see an injustice being done.
And that's that I will remind of. This can happen and it can be like that. But I'm so sad in my heart that the people never learn, because things going on and on and on. And so but I have to work in the small little word and see what I can do there.
And you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job talking about your story
Yeah.
and creating and doing your crafts
Yes.
and being a companion and a wife to Sven.
Yes, that's not so hard, I tell you.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Oh, God, you're making me jealous.
Love is bigger as anything.
Oh, you're making me jealous. Well, how do you say thank you in Norwegian?
Tack så mycket.
Tack så mycket.
Ja,
Tack så mycket.
ja.
Well, Shindera Leshan Clor, that's the end of the show for today. Until the next time, Lacuna of Day with the help of God. Bawalum Tugaler Chiakana Sonus Agus Gra. I wish you peace, happiness, and love. And I thank my beautiful guest today, Kari, for coming on my show. Good day, Shiv Sloan. Bye, Kari.
Bye bye.
Bye.